Hello again. The days when we kept our savings under the bed in the form of gold coins are long over, and in the modern world such an idea sounds primitive and quite absurd. Why on earth would you wish to store your wealth in that way, when these days you can keep it in the bank and have instant access to your funds wherever you are in the world? Many retailers all over Britain and America have stopped handling money entirely and will only accept payment by debit or credit card. It's quick and convenient. Who could possibly object? This process speeded up, of course, during the COVID business when shops were fearful of the germs which might lurk on a banknote. Little by little, this practice of requiring electronic payment has spread until now it's impossible to, say, go to the London Zoo and buy a ticket at the door to visit. You are obliged to book online and pay electronically. Some people are uneasy about this trend because it means that our wealth is really no longer under our control. I must depend upon the computers at my bank to keep track of how much money I theoretically have to spend, and this means placing a good deal of trust in a few very large commercial enterprises. There is a theory that this relentless drive towards electronic banking is part of a scheme to bring about a new feudal system to the world, in which ordinary people like us will become the new landless and penniless peasants. What would happen, people ask, if there was be a concerted effort by those ultimately in charge of the banks and other financial institutions to cause, say, a massive power outage or an electromagnetic pulse which wiped all the data from the computers of the banking system? Remember, I don't actually have any money at all. It's all just a series of digital pulses in the heart of my bank's computers. Suppose that these were somehow erased. Some people in the comments here say that in the future you will own nothing and be happy. And this is a derivation of this idea that at a stroke we might all be rendered paupers and then be at the mercy of the new elite who would step in and take over the running of the world. Instead of the complicated social system which we now have with working class, middle class, white collar, blue collar, old money, new money, and so on, all of us would become penniless serfs, doing as we were told or starving. It will be remembered that Margaret Atwood's novel The Handmaid's Tale explores this idea. I was prompted to think about all this yesterday when I was in the London Transport Museum. Like many people, I've got out of the habit of carrying cash on my person, and I rely instead upon my debit card. I went to the cafe in the museum and tried to buy a cup of coffee. I was told that the card reader was not working and only cash payments were being accepted. This brought home to me the fragility of the system upon which I rely so heavily. In theory, I had plenty of money in my bank and I could access it at the speed of light. But in practical terms, some power outage had reduced me to the level of a pauper who couldn't even afford to buy a cup of coffee. I found this a sobering thought. I do not say that this is really part of some scheme for the New World Order, but like many people, I'm a little uneasy about the way that things are moving. I find it curious how neatly COVID fitted into the business and served to accelerate the abolition of physical money. I don't intend, of course, to take all my money out of the bank and turn it into gold bullion and bury it in the garden. But I am increasingly aware that I'm having to place an enormous amount of trust in banks and other businesses, and these are people whom I normally would not trust an inch. This gives me pause for thought.